Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to FX Maniac. This is Sayed Mahmoud Amiri again, and welcome to another really cool tutorial where I'll be showing you guys how to create hair inside of Maya. Let's just take a moment. Let's just not mistake this. I'm not saying that I'm gonna turn you into a barber for cutting people's hair and stuff. No, that's not what I'm talking about. The thing I'm talking about is creating real 3D looking hair, not 3D looking, 3D real looking hair inside of Maya using Xgen. So we're going to be taking a look at some basics and stuff, and then I'll show you guys how to create something like these. So some abstract looking hair and beard and whatever type of hair you want to create. So I'm going to show you guys how to do it inside of Maya using Xgen. So let's get started with this. And I know what you're thinking right now, like, brother, I want to learn this so badly. So alright, let's get started. I'm gonna go into Maya. So there are a couple of things that I want to tell you guys before starting with the tutorial. Okay, the very main thing is that Xgen is kind of a little buggy, so it is gonna crash during the work. So if you are not like careful, the thing I'm saying is keep saving your work during the process of creating hair inside of Xgen. The other thing that I'm going to tell you guys, and I want to make sure that you follow it, is you want to set your project first, so which we'll be doing that. And Xgen is really not that great with undos and, like, you know, undoing your work, so be aware of that. Like, you know, sometimes it can crash. So generally speaking, be ready for Xgen to crash during the work. So just save your files incrementally. And the other thing that we're going to talk about, Xgen in general, we're going to be talking about 4 different things. So we're going to be talking about guides, and what guides are basically, like, you know, the main strands of hair, like as if you're like implanting hair on your skull or on your head. So those are like the guides, and based on those guides we're going to be creating hair. And the next thing that we're going to be talking about are going to be maps and masks. So they're going to be used for different purposes and controlling different areas and different parameters inside the Xgen and the hair in general. And then we're going to be talking about modifiers, which are basically, as the name suggests, they're going to modify the hair and give them a bunch of different looks, give them some noise, you know, clump together and cut them and other stuff. So these are really helpful things that you can use to, you know, create natural hair and modify your hairs. And then we're going to be talking about lighting and shading the hair in probably the next tutorial. So those are basically the 4 main things that we're going to be talking about. So enough talking, let's get started. So first off, you want to go ahead and start with a fresh new scene. So don't save. And the other thing that I'm going to do is, as I said, you want to set your project first. So you can go and set it wherever you want. So I'm just going to create a new folder, and I'm going to go with Xgen. So just there, set it, and I'm going to create a default workspace. That's basically it. And you want to save your file to there, Xgen, and yeah. So once it is saved, just make sure to save incrementally. So you can go ahead, Control Alt S, and you need to have some sort of a model in order to create hair on. So you can drag a sphere, right click and drag, or in order to see it a bit properly, you can import a 3D model. You can download a person's model out of anywhere or anything, or if you don't want to download it, you can just go ahead into the Windows General Editors, and then we're going to go to Content Browser, and then I'm going to go to Bipeds, and we have this basic head model. So just double click on that and zoom out. It's going to be pretty big, so I'm just going to hit R to scale this down, just like that. Hit F to fit it in the frame, and just move it up. Alright, so we have this model, and I want to create hair on his head or beard or whatever. So first off, I'm just going to give it like a Lambert material of gray, maybe a little darker, so we can see it a little better. And the other thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to save this. You can go ahead and select the areas that you want to populate or create hair on. It doesn't really matter, but it's just gonna be a little bit more precise, you know. So you can do it, or you cannot do it, or if you don't want to do it. But in this case, I'm just gonna create hair on his head. So I'm just gonna go and select the faces from the bottom view, sorry, the front view. So just select all these, and if you select accidentally a few, just hold down Control and deselect them. I'm going to the sides, or maybe probably we should have, or you can just hit Control and just double click, and it'll just remove the bottom sort of row of these faces. So that is basically it. And then in order to work in the Xgen shelf, and there's a shelf, and then you can change your workspace to Xgen, which is basically gonna bring up this Xgen sort of toolbar here, like editor or whatever it's called. So you can go and create a new description, and the description is basically like the main sort of placeholder for all your collections and hair inside of Xgen. So I'm gonna call it like hair, which is pretty self-explanatory. And the collection is like if this is like a room, the collections are gonna be like the chairs inside the room. So just basically like you can fit so many different chairs inside a description, inside of a room, which is basically this. So this collection can be for the head, and then you can create another collection for the beard, another one for the eyebrows, and every other part of the body that you want. And then we're going to be using splines. So this is like this is the one that we're going to be using a lot. And then there are other modes like cards and spheres, which we're going to be taking, which we're not going to be taking a look at in this tutorial, but you can definitely check it out on the internet. And the other thing we're going to be talking about, there are like two main ways of controlling the primitives. There's like guides, and they're like expressions. So in this case, we're going to be using guides. So yeah, just like that. And then we're going to hit create. And now if I go ahead, there are no guides actually right now. So if you want to create hair and see the hair, you have to go into the add or move guides, which is basically here as well, just here. So you can go to the shelf or here. So just click there, and you're going to be planting like guides, which will be like the hairs will be generated wherever these guides are. So you can just go ahead and click. And the reason we've selected the head, the top of the head, is that like now if you click anywhere else, we really can't get the guides. So if you want to create everywhere, you don't have to make the selection in the first place. All right. So what I'm going to do is just create a bunch of different hair guides, and just feel free to add a few more, and go. Just like you're a doctor and you're implanting like individual hair follicles on the skull or on the head. So just feel free and have fun. So I'm just gonna add a few here and there, maybe just like that, and here as well. So yeah. Okay, so this is basically done, and then I'm gonna hit W to finish it off. So now if I want to see the hair, I can just turn on this button, so update the Xgen preview, and now we're having hair follicles or hair strands on these guides. But then we can go ahead and increase the density and make it a lot more denser of a hair. So it is like this hair is not looking that good, so I'm just gonna disable that, add one more here. So now if I just press this, you can see that now it's looking fine. So now we have this hair, right? So you can increase the density just like that. So again, here we have splines, we have cards and spheres, but in this tutorial I'm just going to stick to the splines. And then the modifier CV count, I'm just going to show you guys later, which is a really crucial thing for increasing the quality increasing the smoothness of the hair. So the length of the hair, you don't really want to be messing with this, because you want to leave it at 1. And if you want to increase the length of the hair, you can just go ahead and hide the hair and then just select an individual guide, and you can right click and just like, even not right click, you can just like scale this up. And if you go back to the preview, you can see that the length of the hair just has increased. So you don't want to really be playing around with this. You can go ahead and do it individually, or you can go ahead and hit Control Z and select all of the guides and go and scale them up. So just scale and scale them up. Now if I preview this, you can see that we have much more of a longer hair. Alright, talking about the hair guides, I'm just gonna hide the preview. You can go ahead and select this guide, and you have this guide control points, so you can go ahead and basically reshape the hair, the guides, as you want the hair to be. So you can just go ahead and move it, or you have this really awesome tool called the Sculpt Guides. So if you just select this, you can go ahead and sculpt all of the guides as you wish. So if I just move this out of, you can just take it and do it in general right now, just like this. So it's basically a very cool tool that enables you to basically freely just sculpt the hair guides as you wish. So you can just go ahead and do that, just like that. So yeah. And then the other thing that I'm going to show you guys is that if you want, like, let's say you've created this shape, right? And you can go ahead and select one guide, maybe this one, not the head, just like this one. You can right click and copy the guide shape, and you can paste it to another one which is straight. So just right click and paste guide shape. So it'll basically take the same shape as the other one. So you can just like and hit G, so it will repeat the last thing. So you can just select a few of them and just hit G, just like that. Just select the guide, and you can select the head and go into the channel box, create new layer, and just freeze it. Or you can just right click and add selected objects and just freeze it, right? So we don't select it accidentally. And you can select them. You can do it again, copy the guide shape and right click and paste, and then you can just go ahead and do that. Alright, so I'll just select all of them and paste. So now if I go back to the Xgen and preview this, see, that's what I'm talking about. So you needed to save, but we didn't. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. Just restart Maya.
2 hours later.
Alright, so I went ahead and redid the whole thing. So just keep saving, like increment and save your files. Whenever you bring a change, just increment and save, because Xgen is really not stable. So as I was talking about, like, you can shape your guide. So if you go ahead and do that, you can go into control points, and you can see that we have like 4 points here, right? So you can go and select this and go into rebuild, and you can add like 10 and hit OK, and now you're gonna be having like 10 points for this guide. So it's gonna make it a lot more controllable and a lot more like it will give you a lot more freedom to control the shape however like you want it. So you can just go ahead and do that. Maybe I'll just rebuild it and set it to 4, which for me is gonna be fine because I don't want it that much of a tight control. So just select it and move it here. And as I was saying, if I copy this, I can copy this shape, and then select all the other guides and just paste it. You can see that we have it. Now if I preview this, so I'll just save it before because I don't want to Control Alt S, just
hours later.
Alright, so after crashing Maya a few times, I've done it again and again just for you guys, okay? And I've just shaped some of these guides. So if I just hide it, I've just went to the Sculpt Guides tool and just like, you know, did a random sort of a sculpt thing, and then I just copied the shape and pasted it to one side, and then copied and pasted to the other side. Of course, I flipped this to the other side. Alright, so now if I go and show this, you can go and increase the amount of hair. This is looking really weird, but let's just take a look at some other settings. So we didn't want to play with the length, we could just do it manually. And then the width is the most important thing. You need it to be as thin as possible, and then later we're going to be increasing the number of density to maybe like even like 1,000. You'll get a lot more hair, and then you know you need it to be very thin, so 0.01 is a good number. And then taper, if you increase this, it's going to basically make it so that it is thin on the tip, and it is you know, kind of thick on the root. So you can change that, you know, you can taper start or end. So if you want the root to be thin and the start to be thick, you can change that, but mostly we're going to set it to 0. And then once you actually, you know, increase the taper, you do need to increase your density, you know, to make it look a lot more better. Alright, and the other thing that I'm going to do is you have these tilt options, which is going to basically randomly like rotate the hair, you know. So yeah, this is basically like that. Makes it look really cool, but you can also around, you can change the around value, so it's gonna kind of like rotate it randomly. Alright, I'm just going to set these to 0 and this one too. I've already talked about the rebuild guides tool, so which is going to increase the number of points in a guide. And then let's just say that you have some random hair in some areas that you don't want, right? So if for some reason, like you have a guide here, if you add it, and what is going to happen if you show the guides? Say you're going to have a lot of hair here. So if you don't want the hair to be there, you can go ahead and use a mask. So what I'm going to do is just just click on this triangle, create map, and the map resolution is basically, it's not like a normal map, it's a p-text map. So the resolution of 5 is actually normal here, but you can increase it if you want a higher quality, but 5 is actually fine. I'm just gonna hit create, and then double click on the brush tool, and make sure it is a hard brush and not a soft brush, so hard, and then you can just go ahead and paint over that area that you want. So make sure it is really dark, and the areas that you basically don't want any hair to be on, so you just paint there, and you can save the textures, and it is saved. And now you can see that if I go out of here and you hit save here, you basically have no hair in those areas. So that is how you're going to exclude any part that you don't want hair to be in. But in this case, I'm just going to select this guide, you know, select this, just delete it, and just re-show this thing. Alright, so that's how you exclude certain areas by painting a map. Alright, and yeah, so now I'm just gonna go ahead and show you guys some modifiers in order to modify the hair and make it look cooler. So you can go into the modifier, and probably the most important and the most valuable and useful modifier is the what's called clumping. So it's basically going to clump the hair into together. So you can just go ahead and hit OK, and it just gives you an error, which is alright and fine. You can go into set maps and clump. We need clump guides for this, just like the hair guides. There needs to be some clump guides, and the density is basically like how much. So if I generate some clump, so you can see that it's all over the place. But it doesn't matter, because if you click on the guides, you'll only have those inside in the places where the guides are. So click again onto the guides, and that'll be it. So you hit save, and then the hair is going to clump together in a very cool sort of way. So you can increase there's the R value and then there's a T value. So R is basically root, and then the T value is basically the tip. So if you don't want, you can increase it or decrease it. But in this case, I'm just gonna decrease this, and this will be like fine, I would say. So now the thing is gonna come handy. So if I just select these guides, I go and disable just hide the hair for now. I'm just gonna select one of the guides and just basically select them all, and just increase the length a little bit. Alright, and just preview again. So now we have some long hair. It's looking like a tree or something, I don't know. So you can go ahead and increase, you see some breaking happening here, especially like if we add some noise effect. You can see it here, but if we add some noise, like 1 onto this, you can see that we have some noise here, but then you can control it, the root and the tip, so you can put it there or here. Or even you can go ahead and add a noise sort of modifier and hit OK, and now you're going to be having a lot of noisy hair, and you can increase that on the root and on the tip, which you don't want that much, so you can just decrease it a little bit. But the point I'm making is that you can basically go into the primitives and then the modifier CV count. If you look closely here, you can see some breaking happening in the hair. So the more you increase it, the more smoother the hair is going to be, but it's going to take a bit of time. So make it like 30, and you're going to have a lot more smoother of a hair. So I'm just going to turn off the noise here, and you can add multiple of these clumping modifiers to get some really cool effects. So you can turn down the clump to maybe like 0.6. all right, just like that. That is I don't know if it is interesting or not, but you know, just set it to 1, and you can do one more, like you can add another clumping on top and go to set maps and increase the density to a lot, and we can generate it. And now if I save this, you can see that our hair is gonna clump even more together. But the thing we forgot is that if I go back here, I need to set it to guides, increase it, and then set it to guides, right? And then save, and we're gonna have a lot more of these clumps on our hair, which is gonna make it look really good. So if you want your guides to not be shown in the preview, so you can just go ahead and hide the guides, and you can only see the hair right now. So basically that is it, and you can increase it or decrease it like however you want, just like that. And it's a very stylized looking hair. So yeah, and you can go ahead and add the noise effect, maybe like 3. You can add some noise even in the first one, 10, so you'll get a lot of noise. But this is basically like, you know, how you would like use the modifiers to like modify the hair, right? And yeah, so that is basically it. And you can go and try different areas. You can even add another guides like here, maybe for the beard and stuff. But yeah, these are the basic settings for you know, creating like hair and, you know, modifying the taper, the width, and the density. So if you increase the density right now to like 400, you're gonna be having a lot more hair, and it's gonna be a lot more dense, and it's gonna look a lot more cooler. So just like that. So I have this other example from before, which is basically the same. I just created some hair. You can see the guides here. So I just like put it down like this, you know, sort of down, and then I have like one clamping, and then I have another clamping, which basically I need to set the maps again on the guides and save. And it's going to basically, like, you know, if I hide the guides, it's going to make it look like this, which is a little bit not cool looking. So you can just go ahead and decrease it to 0.2. So yeah, you know, you can create any type of hair that you want. You can go for the beard, you can go for the mustache, or the, you know, eyebrows and stuff. But this is basically some of the basics and some modifiers. Of course, there's like a lot of modifiers, but then most of them are pretty self-explanatory. So you can go cut, you know, like directional force, collision, and other stuff. And I think the tutorial has already gotten pretty long, so in the next tutorial I'll show you guys probably how to create something like this, and lighting, and creating hair shader, realistic hair materials and shaders. So stay tuned for the next tutorial, and I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I know it's been pretty long, but I hope you enjoyed and learned something from it. And if you have any questions, anything you missed, make sure to let me know in the comment section for this tutorial. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure to subscribe and like our videos and share it with your friends. And make sure to check out our new music channel, Audio Aura, for royalty-free, no copyright music. And make sure to follow me on Instagram. I think that is enough of me talking. Alright, so this was today's tutorial. Until the next one, enjoy working.